I'd like to now share some projects that we have done to show you some examples of how our product works in the field. This is a basement slab with Ampex. You can see the gravel under it. There are two load-bearing wood frame walls, which is a polypropylene membrane protruding from the bottom from the concrete. Another basement slab with Ampex. Here you can see the concrete being placed and finished with a bull float, both powered and manual. Ampex is commonly used for exterior driveways and walkways. In situations where you have stairs, like in this house pictured here, high-density silverboard can be used to act as an insulation layer. Another example of an Ampex driveway. Note the concrete hoses and the guys with the boots just walking on the panels directly without an issue because of the high-impact polystyrene film on top. Pictured here is what a heated driveway looks like, just in case you were wondering. In this particular project, while it is a very large home, typical driveway can be easily done and is not cost prohibitive to install and to operate. Here we see a fire station. The engineer initially wanted to use a 45 psi Ampex panel. However, after double checking, they determined that the 30 psi panel would be sufficient. They also used 6 inches of concrete on top of this. This is a farm workshop. You can see it's a very large, substantial slab along with rebar placed at approximately 21-inch spacing. This type of application is going to receive heavy agricultural equipment and it would be parked on it. Poultry barns are another application for Ampex. Here you can see the installers are walking the piping into the panels. After the fact, here are some very content chickens after a heated floor has been installed. Another example of a poultry barn. Here they have a much tighter rebar spacing. You can see that the concrete hose has intermittent support to make sure that the joint brackets don't dislodge the rebar, the piping, or the foam insulation itself. Another application for Ampex is installing at the bottom of a pool. This is not a typical installation. However, with more and more people using ICF pools, it is becoming a lot more common. Here we see a refrigerated warehouse in Etobicoke, Ontario. We see high-density silverboard being used in this application, such as a refrigerated warehouse. Another warehouse project, this time with concrete pouring stage. Another fairly common application for our high-density versions of silverboard and virus sheets are used for ice rinks. In this case, the joints are staggered to provide the best long-term coverage by the foam, which we highly recommend anytime there's more than a single layer of foam being used. This would apply both to horizontal and vertical application. Here's another example of an ice rink, this time with silverboard insulation. This is an older photo when at that time the silverboard graphics were only printed on one side. Today we have the graphics printed on both sides. They are a lot larger and easy to read. Another example of high-density silverboard insulation. The main difference here is that this was done in an existing building. In this case, the rebar had to be epoxied into the existing slab to maintain structural integrity on one side, while the other had to be thermally broken. EPS foam is commonly used for geotechnical application for bridges, roads, highways, etc. In this case, the project called for some insulation for void filling, and high-density silverboard was selected. In most instances, we would not want to see the different layers staggered, but in this particular case, it is. It did not matter, so that the contractor opted into stacking the sheets vertically, which sped up the installation time. This picture does not have any of our products. What we're showing here is what the gravel or crushed stone looks like prior to insulation being installed. Once you have your gravel properly installed, as you have seen in the previous slide, the installation of Ampex will be next. This is an example of a more complex layout for the piping and how it can be done with Ampex mushroom pattern. In this photo, you can see that everyone is just standing on Ampex nubs without any particular precaution. Generally speaking, you would want to place the concrete more or less where it is supported to be without too much spreading around. You can use a shovel or a rake like in this photo to help move the concrete around. For a more final finish of the concrete slab, a bull float is used. They have many different sizes and types. In larger commercial and industrial size jobs, they would want to be using a powered trowel machine, something similar to what you're seeing on the left in the background.